Hello, welcome to Diana's Makerspace on this December 30th, 2025. I'd like to offer some thoughts today on on technology and how and use of AI and what I've observed in AI, as well as also new things of Boeing that have come about since the last election, with Kamala Harris losing at her group. Um, First on AI. What I've seen on AI is I've seen a lot of new video productions, different things about future cities, and also other aspects, and even music videos, even combination music videos made with AI. Well, what this has done is what happens. AI has caused newer music videos to be made in a higher standard than they were previously, back to the '80s standard, where you actually have producers, executive producers, associate producers, cameramen, camerawomen, scriptwriters, and other things like that, though. So AI has forced a higher standard in making music videos, which is good. Also, what happens with AI is showing, though, with music videos, if someone's going to take a quick and dirty way to make music videos, someone with an AI program can make a quick and dirty music video rather easily, rather quickly, just for a few bucks. So it's raising the bar back. The thing is about still regarding the job market and other things. What to do with junior programmers and people starting out in the field, people who haven't reached basically above middle management. Well, the thing is that issue still has to be resolved. Also, the issue of natural resources still has to be resolved. Yet the main thing I see, though, even with AI, though, I still would encourage people to learn how to write code by pen and pad. Like a few days ago, I looked at my alma mater to see what their computer science curriculum was for the opening science course, and they had Java concepts and data structures as the first computer science book, which is good. I actually have that in my library. The book we used was basically Introduction to Computer Science, written by Tremblay and Bunt while they were at Winnipeg, University of Winnipeg. And well, I think Introduction to Tremblay and Bunt goes into more detail than the advanced Java book, but at least the Java book keeps part of the standard, because in Tremblay and Bunt it talked about how to actually write an assembler, how to write a compiler, at the end of your second course in computer science, basically using stacks by demonstration of stacks. Because in those days, we had a different instruction set. So basically, you either moved everything from R1 to R0, or moved everything into the A register. So when you go code, you'd use the R0 R register many times. So you'd have to put on stack, pop it off, put it on, pop it off, pop it up, and do it that way. And what happens, the list-based mentality uses that, but what happens, you don't have to go through this intermediate step of moving one intermediate result to R0 and then pushing it. It does that all at once with the push operation. And then you can do an add, where you add basically the result on the stack and add to it. So again, reduction instruction set. But at that time, we were taught that by a second course in computer science. Nowadays, it's basically not until your third year in computer science you're taught how to do that. So it's still, um, with AI, we're going to have to improve computer science and get back to people knowing how to write with paper and pen. And again, to cite another example, like today I did a little pet project. I was making a revision of my Z80 computer, and what I did was I mapped it out on a breadboard, and then basically I took my notebook and wrote a net list on my notebook. Z connects to the A255, W29C, 595, 165. This pin goes to this, that, and it's a matrix. I made a matrix, and then later I'm going to wire it up and test it out. But the whole thing, I do this as a pet exercise to see what to keep my mind active, see what we can do. And on the Barbie house, for example, let me just see if we can switch over to the Barbie house for a moment. Well, on the Barbie house, what you can see, I started to wire the Barbie house for lights. I got addressable LED lights. You see, that's the power supply. There's remote control. I'm also going to connect it to an Arduino so we can do different light setups, and the lights go in the living room like this, all the way into the kitchen, bathroom, dining room. And also there's going to be a yoga room in a library being planned soon. And that though. And with the Barbie house, also there's going to be other things done. Some newest thing is basically you can see Judy has a new pair of summer shorts that I made, and her knit dress is made to be used as a sweater, so it's pulled up as a sweater. Annette's wearing a knit dress that I made, and then Karen's wearing an outfit that I bought from actually Salvation Army. So basically, what sometimes I buy outfits from Salvation and then modify them to fit Karen. And then you can see Maria's outfit that she literally came in, very beautiful, at Tatiana, and then Olga and Pingy at the end. And when you look at the Barbie house, you can see everyone in the Barbie house is sort of, there's everyone there. There's Diana, Mike, Anastasia, Stanley, Jill, um, let's see, Lara, Barbie, Sandy, Jane, Demetra, and behind them is Henry and Siziska. However, in terms of AI, in terms of current society, what does this mean? We have to have a society where people can work and people can play and have hobbies and afford hobbies. Your work shouldn't be your hobby. Like there are many commercials that say, well, watching someone blow leaves is not a recreational activity, or you're watching the game, you're not coaching the game. Sit down, and that like that. So, and what happens? We got to get back to actually getting back to play. But part of the reason why I mentioned the aspect of play, though, this also goes in the aspect of bullying, because when there isn't enough play, then people get political, people get bullying. Like today, basically, I had something happen I haven't had happen in a long time. Walked in the restroom, I had my wig on, and because I'm a tall woman, one woman said, "Well, you can't be in here." I said, "Yes, I can." She says, "Are you a woman?" I said, "Yes, I am. I can show you my ID and call my attorney if you want me to." She said, "Oh, no, 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 you don't have to do that." And then what happened was, but basically, um, the thing is, what happens though is there's some groups basically that are retaliating now because of politically, because basically their side didn't win the election. They're going against anyone that they feel is not on their side, and there are many women who are born male who are also Republican, and what happened was we don't play politics, but other people play politics on us. I mean, like for example, like I saw one newscast last night, Newsmax. There's one representative that's talking from D.C. She said, what you do in your personal life is your personal life, but what happens when you're at work, you work. You don't bring your personal life to work, and that's true. But what happens? It's the same thing when you're shopping. What happens? Shopping is like work. It's a captive. It's a captive. It's a captive area. So basically, what happens, whatever your personal life is or your personal beliefs, and if you happen to believe in some one church or another church or some sort of odd views, that's up to you, and that's up to you. But basically, when you're shopping, you don't have a right to bring your church into the store, and you don't have a right to force your church views onto someone into the store like that, though. It's one thing to say Merry Christmas. It's another thing to ask the questions that I was asked, and this goes whether you're a Republican or Democrat, from Earth, from Pluto, from Venus, from Alpha Centauri. Um, you know, Work and shopping are captive areas. So basically, whatever your personal viewpoints or your personal politics are, you keep them with you at your home and at your private place. You don't bring them. You don't bring them to work. You don't bring them when you're shopping like that, or when you're doing business. That's why many places I go, many people see me go out many times without my wig, and there are many friends of mine, guy friends, who still like to see, like they actually are glad to see me sometimes without my wig, because basically, they say, "Hi, girl, how you doing?" And they actually appreciate that, because they start. In some ways, they say, "Well, you don't feel like you're being forced to conform to a certain look." And as women, we know what it's like to be forced to conform to a certain look or a certain style of dress to attract guys or attract attention. And what happens is when we meet someone that doesn't require us to always wear makeup all the time, a lot of lipstick, a lot of mascara, and actually get very made up, it's great. That's why at the Barbie sorority, in that though, let's switch back again. That's why at the Barbie sorority, everyone is dressed casually. Like a friend of mine, Mark said one time, I stayed with him. He says, "Well, he said you got it like a beach house. Everyone is dressed in beach attire." Yeah, even the guys basically have beach wear on. So it's sort of like a guy's beach dress like that though and stuff. You can see Stanley's wearing a beach dress, and Mike's wearing a beach dress, and the Barbies, and also with Teddy, with the bigger Barbies. Judy's wearing a beach look. Annette's wearing a beach look. Karen's wearing a little bit of beach look for when the tide comes in because I'm trying to get more clothes for Karen that fit her better and more stylish. Also make more clothes for Karen because I have more fabric that neighbors gave me to work on. And Marie, you can see she has a beautiful look. Reason I haven't changed any outfits from Marie, Tatiana, and Olga. I can't duplicate the quality of that, so I'd rather have them keep their quality like that though. And with the Barbie house, you can see everything is just everyone's casual and that though. And see the bedroom's like a dorm. There's a computer, and basically there's one, two, three, four beds, one dorm room, two bedrooms in another, two beds in another. Here's the new dining room. And then behind there's a hot tub and half a bathroom. And here's the kitchen. You can see part of it here. And behind there you can see it is the bathroom. I'm going to add some lights. You can see the makeup station. Let's see if we can go inside here a little bit. And there you go. And you can see part of the bathroom. Yeah, let's see if we can do it another way here. Let's see. Yeah, and you can also see part of the toilet. However, though, and here's how I do this is the TV room in the movie room where basically there's an area for all the Barbies to watch TV and rest, which we're going to take a siesta in about 30 minutes or so for a little bit, midday siesta. This is one of the work areas like that though, one of the coding areas. You can see I have where I have my interior design magazine, abstract painting, which I won an award for in college. It can be displayed 4 different ways. My inspiration board, my other inspiration board. Also a poster of my news book that came out, Saturday Morning Dress Up Club, and that's about everybody bringing the dolls, and all the dolls have backstory. You can also see some of the boys are wearing dresses as well, because the dress is a universal garment. Another thing is from a nice short film called Hear Me, about people who are try to hold it in or sometimes have trouble expressing themselves as I do, and how it's important for people to hear them. It's a very good film, which I'd recommend. It's available on YouTube. And this is a song I always liked, especially when I was younger, Luca, that came out by Susan Vega, because it talks about people who sometimes are being abused and are afraid to talk about it. And I'm always a big fan of Susan Vega. Susan Vega, like that though. Then, if we go, now this is the craft room, and let me just turn the light on here again. Due to daylight savings time, we have, and you can see that this is my inspiration board again, and this is part of my craft room, and second computer, headphones, and this, and this was the little pet project I was telling you about that I was working on, the Z8 project. You see, it got Arduino Nano hooked up to a Z80 with a 4 megahertz clock, a 4-pin, and then basically 8255 for chip, and then the power supply is going to be taken out to be replaced by a 595, 195, so the pins from the OLED can go inside there. Now switching back, what I'd like to say though is it's important that we learn how to work together, especially in this coming age, in this coming term of AI, because Um, One thing is when we think, if we think of something, well, it's not my problem, it's not in my job description, um, it's the city's job to do it, doesn't get done. And last night I had a nice refreshing thing. It reminds me of what William Campbell said in The Power of Myth. Every culture has myths that they use to recharge themselves. And when the myths are used many times, they become a litany, then they become a religio, and then it becomes a religion. Well, for me, my myth is partially social science fiction, like Doctor Who. When we were Parkside, many of us in pre-med and pre-professional sciences, the Doctor Who club was an escape, because sometimes the Parkside experience would wear you down, because we had some professors from we seen that were very much wanting the red ants, the black ants to fight amongst each other, just like they do at East Side Milwaukee management. So Doctor Who club was a respite, just like my book Saturday Morning Dress Up Club is about respite, about those of us who are doll collectors and adult doll collectors. Um, and what I watched last night is this episode called The Face of Evil, and it was what it was about was Doctor landed on a planet that's a retrograde planet where it's highly technological, but because of a certain aspect that happened, the two people were separated into two separate cultures. One which were the survey team, and one which were the technicians. But because of like was mentioned on Doctor Who too about grim consonant shift, techs become Tesh, survey teams become sever team. And what happened between it was the one computer system that they made, and this relates to AI, that became very intelligent, hyper intelligent, that became its own being, its own living entity. However, the people that created it didn't realize it had become, and the doctor didn't realize it. So he thought, well, the computer needed a little help, so he gave him part of his personality, but he forgot to wipe the personality from it. So when the computer did go up and did get through trial and get into adulthood, it started to have a split personality. And at the end, what happened, because split personality it put the two groups of people against each other, like in a eugenics experiment. One group, the sever team, was very independent, could live on their own, pull them up by the bootstrap. The Tesh team was very much hyper religious team, self denial, high technology, but with telepathy. But in most hyper religious careers, they're not highly technical. But this case, it showed one that was. And what the doctor realized, it said, well, the two teams said, well, wait, you're actually being played against each other. And he finally figured out what it was, is the computer that was having a nervous breakdown, because what happened was the computer had one personality plus the personality that the AI developed. So Dr. realized, well, okay, the way to do that was, what he had to do was he had to remove his personality from the AI computer, so that the computer just had one personality, his or her personality. But it showed it's very hard to do, because basically, one thing would help me like this. I went through bullying last year, and it's something I forgot, because I was isolated during that time quite a bit. And what the phrase was, even the most powerful and people who are the most dumb and the most cruel, they both have the same habits. They will not acknowledge what are the facts of the current situation, and also they will not acknowledge what is the solution to the current situation. They always want to game it to their perspective. So, and when I thought about that, I thought, yes, that's exactly what I went through with this person. This person was very dumb, but she is doing the same thing, her and her husband. And basically, I'm glad it meant that I stood up later last night till about 5 in the morning to watch it on Amazon Prime, on Google, like that though. But it was worth it, because psychologically it helps me. And this is where basically certain stories can help you, even reruns. Like for me, it's Doctor Who. A friend of mine, for him, it's basically every Sunday at 3 o'clock he watches Lawrence Welk on PBS. And for me, basically, my Lawrence Welk is Friday Night Videos, MTV, but now it's YouTube Music, Amazon Music. That's my version of Lawrence Welk. And actually, When we used to watch Friday night videos, when I used to watch with my parents used to say, well, it reminded them of a TV show called Your Hit Parade, where they had different people perform and the early versions of an American Bandstand like that, though. So the thing is, this is where basically you have to be able to break away from the isolation because at one point I stopped everything I was doing in Arduino research and development art and I concentrated on just one thing. I concentrated on working on the Barbie mansion in my doll collection just to get my mind focused again, to get all this junk that was being put into it by bullies, to get it all again and make sure that I rested, I ate well, I slept well. Now basically I'm fully rested. I'm able to restart some of my hobbies, but I'm realizing one thing though. It's like my dad said, don't pull your neck out too far because these people try to chop it off. And that goes back. This goes back to my last point. Um, no matter what hobby you do, whether you're a doll collector, Arduino IoT or anything, you have to be in the right environment. Because what happens if you're not in the right environment, then you got to make sure you have a small protective environment to do your things. That's why, like even with the Barbie house in the Barbie mansion, um, like a friend of mine told me one time says even though we seem can be an open-minded community, you cannot carry your Barbies openly. You got to put them in the case and put them covered. And when you do go to the library, you got to get a special room to do the presentation. You just can't do it openly in the library because people still panic. And that's the reason why um, we do need to have special areas, and also we do need to have our legal rights and protected against people who may be trying to play politics, especially those who lost the last election going after people who are women who are now women but born male, but they're perceived as Republican because basically that they did quote support their candidate. However, in the United States, we're not a banana republic yet and I hope we never become one. But we are approaching a second, third world country. That's why we have to take stands on immigration. We have to take stands on American values, American customs, and also we have to take stands about basically foreign church invasion as well, because basically. Whether someone's a woman because they're born a woman or basically they are born male and basically they are a woman because they're intersexed as I am, or basically or they transition other ways like that. Um, United States and also in advanced countries, that's not an issue. Even in India, that's not an issue. But in African nations, it is. And what happens is that's why in some cases, some of those African cultures should stay in Africa like that, though. And that's why I agree with President Trump. Yet, what happens though when I say stuff, people say, "Well, then you agree with this and this." No, I agree conditionally, only point by point, and not a precedent. So basically, it's only point by point. So if I say something that there's not a further fan out of implications, just that point, that point. In conclusion, um, the most important thing is to have a hobby and also have a protected space where you can enjoy your hobbies and you can enjoy your creativity, because basically there are greater intrusions into public space and shopping and even in work nowadays, like where people used to be accepted that you're supposed to keep your personal problems at home and work is for work and shopping is for shopping. Um, you still have to put your guard up. But if someone does do it, just remember if someone does attack you and say, "Well, are you a woman?" Says, "Yes, I can. I am. I can show you my ID if I want to, but I don't have to. Also, I can contact my attorney." And what happens in some ways, more of the countries has to do what many people have to do in New York. If someone's going to push too hard on you, you get legal. And there are many ways to get legal like that, though, and stuff. So, because what happens, some of these people will try to attack you as bullies because in this case, it was 3-on-1. And what happens like that, I was the one and they were the three. And so, because she was put up two and there were two other people outside waiting outside to see what I would do. And what happened was, and people wonder why we have trouble with race relations in this country. Well, The Civil Rights Act was passed in 1965. It's 2025. It's been 6 years, so everyone should have read the memo by now, like that, though. The Civil Rights Act does not allow two groups to use the Civil Rights Act as an unfair advantage against other people, which has been done. That's why I agree with other people that are talking about a reevaluation of the Civil Rights Act and a reevaluation of the Voting Rights Act because of slurring and abuses that have occurred even since the Bakke decision. Well, let me know what you think. Best way, as I said, the best way to reach me is on various channels, and I'll do my best to respond in a timely manner. That some days I don't feel good, and some days that basically I'm a little bit sluggish, but I will try to respond in a timely manner. But just be patient, and thank you for watching. And remember, keep your spirit up, keep strong. Don't let anyone ever tell you anything or try to put you down or try to say that basically you're in the wrong place. You know your rights and you know what place you know where you are. Don't let someone else try to control you. This has been Diana's Makerspace, and thank you for watching.